We pray to lay down anything that can get in the way, and we invite you into this place. We love you. Amen.
There are two questions that I'd like us to consider this morning as we begin a missions emphasis. The first one is, how do we participate in the mission to take place? And I think that answer is going to be as unique as you are. I don't think there's one prescribed way. I don't have set ideas for everybody's placement of how they're going to carry out the mission to take place. But it's a question I think is worth considering. The second question is, how do I participate in the mission beyond Sunday? Now, most of you know that one of our values is, beyond Sundays. That our mission is not just for a gathering on Sunday. We don't just exist as a church for this gathering right now. But it's one of the chief ways that we gather together to equip and to worship together. But our mission is more than just what happens in this room or in this building on Sundays. So if you're taking notes this morning, I want to give you a second to write these down. How do we participate in the mission of Table of Hope? And how do I participate in mission beyond Sunday? All right, you're going to have some more time to think through this, and I will come back to these questions toward the end of my talk, but something I want you to kind of ruminate and process on. You may get an answer today, you may not get an answer today. Maybe something that you need prayerful consideration for to figure out what that looks like. You may need to have some conversation, see where needs are at, or to see where you're already invested, and to see how you can be intentional in those spaces. We're going to talk some more about that. I just got back this week from an orientation with one of our church partners, and they were preparing us as missionaries. And I was excited about that because, as a long-time churchgoer, I always thought, missionaries were people that served over there. And then, like, everybody that did the work that needed to be done over here was like something else. And if you've known me for a long time, I'm huge about, it's important to me to be in the neighborhood that we're trying to serve. It's important for me to be in the community that we're trying to reach. And it's important for me and Team Clark to be invested where we're doing mission. And we very much think of the work that we're doing as the work of a missionary. Now, the only difference is we didn't get plopped into a space where we had to completely learn how to speak the language and learn the culture and amass favor in a space where we had no influence at all. Our benefit as being backyard missionaries, if you want to call it that, is that we had some influence, we had some relationship, we had some, the opportunity for our sending church to bless us as a campus that sent out and started new work. But this work that we're called into is not just work that Team Clark's called into. This is a work that I want to invite you all into because I think that our mission is so much bigger than me. Our mission is going to take all of us and people that are not in this room to carry it out. And so I want to invite you to start thinking about what mission looks like in your life. How many people in here have been a part of a church emphasis for missions before? Like, I've been to a missions thing before, or had a missions emphasis. Usually that goes with hey, here's some cool stuff, maybe you should give some money to it. Sometimes it's cooler than that. Sometimes they have good food and they have, different varieties of ways to kind of, engage your senses in the mission of where God's doing work globally. And I think there's a great opportunity for that. Just not yet for us. I think some of our global focus and missions work is going to come. I think we are still very much a mission-minded group, and we're trying to carry out our mission. And so when we started looking at a missions emphasis, I thought it was right to start with our mission first. And then invite you in, and then actually for us to get our hands dirty and carry out some of that mission here locally, because I don't know if you guys know this, but our neighbors don't know Jesus. What? I know, it's surprising. They don't. As you look at some statistics, it's kind of funny. I was in a room with about 200 pastors this week from all over the United States. It was very encouraging. A lot of pastors from Puerto Rico, pastors from Florida, from New Orleans and California and Oregon and New Mexico and almost every state. And I was the one guy from Seattle. And I was like, man, this is not right. Because technically, our church partners have launched like 27 churches this last year. And I'm like, how am I the only one that's a part of this orientation? I don't understand it. But what was neat is we were united in the way that we were like, we have a mission. And our mission is to be able to share the gospel. And to help figure out the context, to be able to how to share that well. And to bring it to our neighbors well. And we all share that same mission. Man, getting used to East Coast time was something else, I tell you. Felt like I was getting up at 3:30 every morning. Felt like a mission just to go to Atlanta, come home, and I needed to recover for like 3 days. It was ridiculous. It was a good time to get away, to be encouraged by a lot of like-minded spaces. It's not a lot of places where you have a gathering of 200 pastors, or I think it was 174 or something, and all trying to do the same thing. It's pretty cool to be in a room of peers. So as we prepare for the next 4 weeks of Missions Emphasis, we're going to do it a little differently. I think there's some great ways that churches do mission. I think for us, we're going to explore and we're going to discover, and this is going to be the first iteration of what our Missions Emphasis looks like. Our hope after these next the 4 total weeks of this series is that we would get some input and some, a better idea of where you're already in mission and see how we can partner with you there. And so I think there's some cool opportunities that are going to come out. We're going to brainstorm some of that and work together what the next couple weeks look like towards the end of this message here. We're going to identify a mission that we can actually do together. Today I want to share with you the mission that we are all on at Table of Hope. So when you say the Table of Hope is your church home, I'm hoping that it means that you align with our mission and our vision, and you desire to live in the way that we are trying to live. But I want to ask you the question, who can tell me what the mission of Table of Hope is?
Using our table to share radical hospitality.
Oh, so close. So close. So close. You're like 70%, bro. 70%. One more try.
Well, Jeff, I would like to add to what Craig said.
Oh, that's good.
And reading gospel space.
Oh, yeah, the gospel space. Forgot gospel. Thanks, Jeff.
Good. What do you got to say?
Creating gospel space at Eagle.
Oh, creating gospel. Getting close. It's really close. I feel like one more iteration might get us there.
Creating gospel space outside of Sundays at other churches. I mean,
I love it. I love it. Yes, all those things. It's actually just one sentence, though. Good. That's great, though. I love that.
Using our tables to share his gospel.
There you go. There we go. So our mission at Table of Hope is using our tables to share His gospel. Now, it is about radical hospitality. It's about more than Sundays. It's about creating gospel space. I mean, every time I hand out a card, I talk about our logo. I talk about how that horizontal line represents your table. And when we share the hope of Jesus, it creates gospel space. It's one of the reasons why I'm like doggone it, stuck on the logo on everything, every time. Not because of the cleverness of it, but because I'm inviting people into mission every time I share that logo. Whether it's a barista at Anthem, a pastor that's in New Orleans, or it's my neighbor, every time I share, I'm inviting them into the mission of what we're trying to accomplish at Table of Hope. That's why I love the logo so much, because I want to invite other people to join us in what we're doing. So I want us to personalize this mission statement. I want us to say this together. The mission of Table of Hope is to
use my table to share His gospel.
Good job. Let's try that again. The mission of Table of Hope is to use my table to share His gospel. That's what my hope as a pastor is. Ephesians 4 says the work of a pastor is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. This is not about the Tyler Show, about like what can I accomplish, because there are more people in Puyallup than I'm ever going to reach. Of the 40,000 plus people that live in Puyallup, and the 250,000 that live in Tacoma, like I can't go get all those people the gospel. I want to. Let's get them all in a room, round them up, and let's fill a stadium and tell them about Jesus. I think that'd be awesome. But I think that would just be fleeting. We give them a little bit of hope, but we want to be able to help them to show how they walk their walk, this Jesus walk, and why it's so important, and why it's our hope, and why it's their hope too. It takes more than just one hearing of the gospel for us to be able to join in the mission of our church. To equip the saints, that's you. I know we probably don't think of ourselves as saints, but as those that know Jesus, we are We are pure and holy, and because of Jesus' sacrifice, we're saints. And we're called to do the ministry. Sometimes I think we think, oh, just the vocational people, just the paid people are doing the ministry. And I hope you don't think that, because that's not the only way the ministry is done. Actually, if that's the only way that ministry was done, our sphere of influence would be very, very small. All of us are called in to do the ministry, but not the same ministry. And that makes this beautiful Mosaic family that we come together and we can celebrate doing ministry together. And we're going to talk some more about that. So let's go to the next slide. So, our mission is to use our tables to share His gospel. We want to create a space where people can be known, an authentic community where restoration in Christ can happen. I love this picture of us, and there's a lot of our slides that are today as a tool that I'm using to kind of share the mission of what we're doing as a church. To share our mission and invite people to join us, because I think we need some more people to help us carry this mission out. And to invite some partnerships to help us kind of raise some finances and that kind of thing in there. And so this is a big piece of our perspectives. But I love this picture from the Plant Exchange, because it was one way that we could help our neighbors be great neighbors. Without being like, oh cool, hey, here's all the right things to say. Hey, here's the Bible, go ahead and carry that out. No, we can help people be good neighbors and start to cultivate some relationship to give some time before the harvest comes. And I'm excited that we're going to do this again in May as an opportunity to equip our neighbors to be great neighbors. It's one of the most tangible ways that I've seen that we're like, hey, there's small pieces of people carrying out our mission. You know, and at that event we carried out, we equipped 5 new tables. And I hope that we can carry out 10 new tables this year and just help people seasonally love on their neighbors. I think that'd be a big win. All right. I mentioned that. Let's go to the next slide. Why Puyallup? If you've heard my testimony, I often will share that we really try to live in Tacoma. Like 20 houses of looking at like houses and writing offers and getting beat out consistently, writing escalation clauses of $10, $20, and $30,000 over list price because we wanted to be in the 16 blocks of the neighborhood that we're trying to reach. And when the Lord deemed us to be in Puyallup, and through a family connection that we didn't have to deal with the market and continuing to get beat out every single time. I think we wrote 6 offers on houses, and it was like, oh, no, you're going to be in Puyallup. You don't have to compete with anybody. Here's a great price. It's on the market. This is where I want you. And I remember being frustrated. And I was like, why are we in Puyallup? I want to be in Tacoma. I want to be where you called us to be a mission. And I just didn't know at that time that God was preparing us for a new work in the neighborhood that we live in. 84% of people in Puyallup don't know Jesus. This was never more apparent to me than when I go in to talk to other pastors from other contexts where the cultural majority is Christian, or the cultural majority identifies as Christian. Because I'm not sure that the cultural majority often lives Christian. And up here, people don't, you can talk about Jesus a lot, and people not even know who He is. And I'm not talking about a misconstrued view or a wrong view of Jesus. I'm talking about no view of Jesus. Like, I've never heard of Jesus. And so when we start to realize what our neighbors are composed of the people that don't know yet know Jesus, it kind of puts a little urgency on our message. It gives us a need to say that what we're doing here on Sunday is important, not just because it's edifying and valuable to us, but because it should be equipping us to make a difference in that 84%. As I said, there's no hope in me giving the gospel to all 40,000 people of God. But if we are equipped as a team, and we're investing where we're at, in Puyallup and Pierce County and all around, there's a much larger impact that we can have to help people know Jesus. But we're still very much on a mission. Which, when I started thinking about this, it's clear what my mission is. Okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help equip people. I'm supposed to get other people to share in the work of reaching Puyallup, reaching Pierce County for Jesus. Equipping the saints, like we said in Ephesians 4. But I started out thinking a little bit more, like, well, how do you know what your mission is? And I want you to write that down because I want you to think about it a little bit more. What I love about the church is that there's a lot of different ways that we can participate in mission. If you're like, I don't even know where to start with this mission question, I want you to think of 4 areas. Where do you live? Where do you work? Where do you learn? Where do you play? And one of those 4 areas, often all 4 of those areas, are places that we can engage in mission. And so when we start thinking about what our mission is, that's going to be helpful for us to navigate this. But guess what? I have a real answer for you. I have a beautiful assessment, 4 pages that you can do, and it will tell you exactly what your mission is. Who wants an assessment?
Not gonna happen.
Nobody wants an assessment? Okay, wait, I got a better one. It's 10 pages. It will tell you specific. Oh, I mean one? Yes. When we get home, I got one for you. Thank you. Having a child after my own heart. It sounds silly, but we kind of desire sometimes that we can just take a test that will tell us what we're supposed to do. But if we took that test, I think we might not be happy with what the result would look like. Well, I can only do this. If you ever watch any kind of dystopian show where it's talking about, where people have to take a set test or have some sort of marker to tell them what they're supposed to do, they're never happy about it. Oh man, I'm gonna be a coal miner, and that's all I can do. I'm stuck to be a coal miner. See, our opportunities are far more limitless than that, and it not just narrowed to what just an assessment would tell us. But sometimes it can be a helpful tool to help us to start explore how we might use some of these gifts. I think a simpler way for us to look at where our mission is, maybe looking where your natural gifts are. Maybe you have some gifts of being, a high emotional intelligence. You are really a people's person. You feel empathy. You can influence and navigate those things. Maybe that's some of your giftings. Maybe you're a strategic thinker. I can make complex plans and have them be really, thorough and intentional, and think about obstacles before they come. Here's one that this could appeal to anybody. I can move heavy objects easily.
Amen.
Hey, come on. Or I can type fast. I don't know, what are some of your natural giftings? I can teach music, I include others, I train others, I teach others. Some of us can be motivators. Some of us encouragers. Some of us make fantastic baked goods. All of our natural gifts can be used for God's glory, can be used for mission, can be used to be able to see how we can engage a little bit more of what our mission is. And maybe your mission is to be the blueberry muffin maker and to greet your neighbor, not blueberry, blackberry muffins. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All of our natural gifts can be used for God's glory. One of the chief places that we actually can engage in mission is our vocation. I don't know how often you've thought about this, but God has you where you are for a purpose. And you can be a light in your workplace. And it doesn't have to mean that you have to do it the way you think you do it. It might just be being kind and showing Jesus to other people. It might be like being a little less selfish in the workplace. It might mean, I'm going to bring donuts in once in a while. Or I don't know what the thing is. Or maybe you're not even going in. Maybe it's just sharing the love of Jesus with them over a computer screen. But there's a lot of ways to engage in mission, and they don't have to be defined. I don't need to say, hey, okay, guess what? When you all go to work tomorrow, here's what you need to do to be on mission. I think it's much more nuanced and more personal than that. And it's more spirit-led than that. I think you can be on mission where you live, where you work, where you learn, and where you play. Even where you play. I remember when we were dating, one of the things I used to love to do was pull together a big ultimate frisbee game. I was terrible at this game. Like, the worst. But I just liked getting everybody together. I haven't changed that much. But I would call and I'd promote and get the words out. The best game that I ever had wasn't the game where I had the best player or my team won. The best game that I ever had is when we had 11 on 11. Because there was a critical mass and enough room to make the game work well. And it was the most fun because there was the most people contributing. So some of my natural gifts have been that recruiting and promoting and kind of sharing. Like, hey, let's do this fun thing together. Rah, we're going. Finding our mission can be hard, though, too. I thought about, you guys have probably seen Harry Potter. you know, where they set the hat on the kid and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to that house and you're going to this house. And just like the test, each one of those kids sit down with the hope of like their family's like, wants to be in the family house that the house had been in. Sometimes it mixes it up. And I think if the hat was sat on us, we might be disappointed. Hey, here's your gifts. This is the only thing you can do to serve the kingdom. We're not limited in that way. So you're going to have to settle for a Facebook quiz to determine if you're Ravenclaw or Slytherin. I'm sorry. I can't tell you. I think a Harry Potter joke gets me a little bit of credit today. No? You guys don't? Yeah, just with Star. Me and Star, that's cool.
And Chris.
And Chris, thank you, Chris.
No, negative points.
I receive it. The question I want you to consider is, what process will you undergo to explore your mission? What are you going to try? What are you going to do? Who are you going to talk to? What scriptures are you going to look at? See, I think most people find their mission between a mixture of natural gifts and trial and error. Oh man, I do not like doing so many things.
Homework. Gardening.
Gardening. That's a great example. What a great example, Josiah.
Digging a hole.
Also, digging a trench. Not my favorite. Not my favorite. Motivating my kids to dig the trench. They don't dig either. That's not fun. But that, sometimes you have to do those things that you don't like doing. You're silly. Don't be too silly on me. That mixture of trial and error. Okay, cool. I don't have to dig a lot of trenches to know that that's not my gifting. And digging the trench wasn't a matter of gifting. It was a matter of me saving money since I don't want to pay the plumber to dig the trench. But I want to invite you to that process of trying some things. And we're going to do that over the next couple weeks. We're going to try some things together. And see what fits and what doesn't fit. Maybe you're like, hey, I actually, I just know how to work hard. So I'm going to help out wherever I can. Or maybe you're technically savvy and you can help in different ways, and all those things can be considered when we're looking at mission. There's a diagram, and most of you have seen this before, but I want to take a little bit of time to walk through it because I've been praying about where we're going as a church. I think this is I don't know if it's a secret sauce, I wouldn't call it that per se, but a discipleship path to help us identify how we share our tables. Because sharing your table doesn't have to be just doing a game night. Although many of us do that, and it can be a great thing. Sharing a table could be a food is free table. Sharing a table could be hosting a nice meal. Sharing your table could be meeting at a coffee shop. What I'm hoping is that you look at is that there's 3 key steps that we're talking about in our discipleship. The first one is come to the table. And we're going to unpack that a little bit more. The second step is embrace the table. So once we kind of know what the table's about, then we can kind of embrace it. We can start to walk in that way. And then the third one is to share your table. And I think there's a process of walking through these, but sometimes you come to the table and you're ready to share your table immediately. That's great. You don't have to go through all these steps in specific order. I'm going to introduce 3 steps that go along with each of these tables, but all I want you to do is to focus on the table that you think that you're at. And really just the table that you're at and where you're at. Like the number goes 1 through 9 and we get through there. We think that everybody at Table Folk has a place at one of these tables. And sometimes we bounce from table to table and that's okay. It's not designed to be like a rigid, linear path of how this develops. But this is us equipping our church to share the table, to share in the mission of our church. So the question I want you to think about is, where am I in this process? And some of you already kind of have a clear picture of that. Or maybe you're in a different spot today. All right, so let's go to the first slide. Come to the table. This is a picture of y'all, because our neighbors need to come to the table. Traditional church thinking would be like, okay, cool, tell them wants me to invite. I do want you to invite. But that's not the main focus of what the table is. Actually, I think the table is much more personal and intimate than just our Sunday gathering. I think this first table is really about building a relationship, and it's hard to do that in rows, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to sit around some tables. And we're trying to shorten the gap from like, hey, come to my table, come to my house and have dinner, to, hey, come to my church. It's not much different than how we do dinner. trying to shorten some of the gap. Now, what we're doing on Sunday is equipping people to share their table. But the first table is about equipping you to help people choose Jesus. The first step in this, Kristen, and thank you, is trusting the Christian. Hey, Josiah, I didn't ask you this before I showed up. Can I tell that story about your little friend at school? Cool, thank you. About 3 weeks ago, Josiah came home from school and shared a story with a classmate or somebody at the school. And he said that he found out that she was an atheist, that she believed in nothing about God. And so Josiah goes, hey, you need to meet me at the table after school, and I need to hear your answers. And I was like, that's pretty bold. And he's telling me the story, and I'm like sitting back and I'm just kind of in my heels listening a little bit. He goes, so she came to the table and she told me 3 things. She said, I'm an atheist, and I believe in science, and I believe in the Big Bang, and I believe that we came from monkeys. And he goes, Dad, every time I'd ask her a question, she'd just give me one of those 3 answers, even if that wasn't the answer to the question I was asking her. Okay, that makes sense. I said, hey buddy, how do you think you were at I asked him a question first. I said, what do you think the first step to coming to know Jesus is? And he's heard this enough that he was like, trust a Christian. And I was like, do you think the way that you were asking questions was helping her trust you? No. Oh, okay, so how could you? What's that look like? Well, I don't know what to say. What should I say? How do I share my faith when I just ask her questions? It's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you kind of trust that the Spirit leads there, and you look for some curiosity to develop, and you invest in trusting the relationship. Now, he wasn't incredibly satisfied because my posture for him was to tell him to ask more questions and to try to build trust, not just give her a strong answer. And I'm proud of his boldness because, he's not only, when we talk about Team Clark being on mission, my kids are a big part of how we engage in mission and how we share gospel space. And so I'm super proud of the effort that he made. And I think it just needs a little tweak, a little bit of an adjustment. Hey, let's talk about this. Why do you believe that? Oh, no, my parents said that. Oh, okay. Well, what do you think? Oh, I think that. Oh, okay. Not having to win everybody, but so many times when we think about evangelism, we don't think about how to build trust. We just think about an urgent message that we need to share. And building trust takes a long time. There's a passage that we think that fits this well. It says, let each of us please his neighbor for his good, to build him up. If this was the verse that you shaped about how you share the message and you create a gospel space, how does it change how you create gospel space if that's for the better of the person coming? Not for the better of our church, not for the better of sharing the gospel message, but what's for the best for them? Well, sharing the hope of Jesus, I think, would be the best for them. How do we do that in a way that they hear? It takes a long time. I shared with you guys that, my father I've been praying for 30 years about this, and he's starting to get a little bit curious, but I'm having to be okay, whatever you want to talk, I'm excited. And he's coming to some messages that I'm like, man, I would not want you to be coming to those messages. And just waiting, because I need him to be able to trust that I'm going to be delicate in discussing his faith. Or lack thereof, because we're building trust. The next step is to be open to change. Matthew 9:17 says, neither is the new wine put into old wineskin. If it is, the skin bursts and the wine is spilled out, and the skins are destroyed. But the new wine is put into fresh wineskins, so both are preserved. So there's this process that they would take wine and they put it into a wineskin, which is typically kind of like I think it's like an organ or something. It's like it's like a skin of an animal that is kind of holding wine. And when you put the new wine in, and it hasn't had wine in that thing before, it expands and contrasts, and it can handle it because it's flexible. But after it goes through that process of expanding and kind of collapsing a little bit, then it kind of gets a little brittle. And so if we were to put new wine into an old wineskin, there was a chance with the expansion that it would explode. So there was this like big thing that would happen if you put like new wine into old wineskin. And so we talk about the value of being open to change, because once you have enough information, and once you know, okay, I kind of know about what Jesus is about, then you have to be open to changing. Like, that means I might have to live differently. Now, what's crazy about this is I didn't think that I'd have to do this as often, but I need to remind myself that I need to trust a Christian. Even the ones that hurt me, the ones that misuse me, the ones that are mean to me, that I have to remind myself to trust a Christian. And I have to remind myself that I have to be open to change. Daily. Okay, you know what? I probably don't know the right way to do that, or I don't know everything about that, all right? There's a lot to learn. It brings us to the third step, is choose Jesus. The whole purpose of coming to the table is to be able to choose Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. We want to foster and live relationships that help people choose Jesus. Which means we're going to have to build enough trust. And they're going to be able to determine whether there's enough trust built. We're going to have to wait until they're open to change. And then they're going to have to choose Jesus. We play a part in this, but there's a lot of agency in the parts that they play. And it's not just about like, okay, cool, did I get enough? Did I say the gospel enough? I think a lot of times we got to think about, did we live the gospel enough? Is there Jesus represented in our actions? The next table is embrace our table. Now, once we kind of choose Jesus, we can start to walk this Jesus walk and live a life that looks more like him. And I asked Jeff's permission if I could share this with him, because I don't even know that Jeff sits at this table anymore. But he did kind of progress through this movement with us as a church. And so he was, involved with discovery and with Levites and going to small group and going to church and that kind of thing. But still just very much kind of sorting through, like, what's this look like and where does this sit? And one of the key things for him was like baptism. When the right timing for baptism was. And if you've been with us for a long time before we even launched this Table of Hope, we had the opportunity to baptize Jeff. But we saw Jeff model these kind of steps of pursuing growth. He was hungry for growth, and we would sit down and we'd talk and we'd read the scriptures and discuss them, and we still do that. He's still hungry for growth. Then we saw him go all in. If you see how Jeff serves when he sets up, it's pretty incredible. Now, I'm not saying this to embarrass him. I'm just mostly saying this to appreciate him, because it's pretty fantastic the way that he serves and honors the Lord by the way he prepares our gathering. It's incredible that I don't have to think about most of those things, because he just serves that way. And then he found his fit. Well, I don't know who can do it better than you, bro. I love it. I remember when we were first gathering as a team, just kind of figuring out how this worked. I called him on the phone and said, hey, can you come help? And I was like, I think we need to draw this up. And like, he made a drawing to scale. And you know that he was like exacting and like how the chairs were set upstairs, like for that space, because he knew that he was contributing to a safe environment where we could worship. And it was an act of service. That was one way that he could find his fit. Now, when he chooses to talk, it's worth listening, so do that. But he prefers to be behind the scenes. One day I dream he's going to come up here and he's going to share a message with us. He told me no, it's okay.
Jesus is coming that day.
But he's a good example of embracing the table. Let's go to the next slide. So the first step is pursuing growth. Pursuing growth, we see in Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. That by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. We have to make a choice to pursue growth. The goal of our Christian walk is not to just grow fat and old with Jesus. The goal of our life is to continue to grow and live lives that look more and more like His. Let's go to the next one. Go all in. So this is, I've been praying about this since like October and trying to process and what this looks like. And this is really the main point of Table 2. It's going all in. we've introduced a commitment sheet. And the design for the commitment sheet, we'll talk some more about tonight as well, but was to define, like, what's this relationship look like? What does all in actually look like? And it wasn't to be an exhaustive list of all the things, to be a pharisaical 632 rules to follow Jesus well. Because we all have time for 632 rules, right?
Yep.
Yep, cool. Great, we'll work it out later, bro. Jesus himself said that if you're going to come after me, that you must deny yourself and you must take up your cross and follow me. Going all in with Jesus is a hard thing to do. It's an easy thing, well, moderately easy maybe, to choose Jesus. But to live for Jesus in every area of our life is exponentially harder. We have to take up our cross, we have to deny ourselves, and that's hard. And so when we say all in, it's about going all in with our walk with Jesus, but it's going all in with our church too. Which brings us to find your fit. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Finding your fit is going to be trial and error. It's going to be a mixture of your already natural talents mixed with some of your God-given talents. The main idea from embracing our table, it means that we go all in with Jesus in our lives and in our church. That brings us to our third table, share your table. Appreciate Chris and Star also giving permission to share them as examples of this. We used to go to the same church about 5 churches ago for me. But I watched and saw potential, and I saw that, as people saw potential in them, they just bloomed where they were planted and kind of grew into the positions that they were asked to serve into. And in their other church, they were frustrated, not able to use their gifts. Just a sea of numbers and a large sea. And when we kind of shared the mission and vision of what we were trying to accomplish here at Table of Hope, they're like, we see it. We want to help whatever we can to make that happen. Now, I don't say this to to puff them up or this kind of thing, but they've been good examples of sharing their table and doing things that they probably would have done otherwise. We'll go to the next slide. The first step for share your table is identify your mission. If you're going to have a dinner party, you got to know what you're going to serve for dinner. You got to know how many people are coming over, which is a little bit more to set your table. But identify your mission. Says, therefore, brothers, be all the more diligent to confirm your calling and election. For if you practice these qualities, you will never fall. The idea behind this is we all have a unique mission. And I would separate this from finding your fit. Finding your fit might be a little bit more intentional to the internal needs of our church. Hey, we need somebody to stack chairs. We need somebody to help with sermon writing team. We need help with AV, or we need help with the different needs that we have on Sunday. Whereas maybe finding your mission includes that, but it's a little bit more outward focused. Finding your mission might mean that you just look for a way to encourage somebody at work tomorrow. Finding your mission might be, you might find ways to foster relationships and have that little bit more intentional conversation and push off a little bit of work for a little bit. Once you know what your mission is, and it might be the mission that you're going to try, maybe not the exact mission that you're supposed to do, then you need to set the table. How many people are coming over? How many plates do I need? How many pounds of meat do I need to cook for this people? Or how many pounds of vegetables do I need to make for this family? Setting the table, we really like the parable of the feast. It says, when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you'll be blessed because they cannot repay you. For you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Invite those that you want to naturally think to invite. Maybe that means you're inviting somebody that grates against you. Somebody that just frustrates you. Somebody that wouldn't be able to be blessed in that way otherwise. Once you kind of set the table, and this might mean you're pulling a team or resources, maybe you need some education, some counsel, or an opportunity, but all of those things contribute to how you set your table. And it takes preparation once you kind of know what's on. So for us, that was kind of the time frame between November, when we were called, and when we launched in April. Like, that was us setting the table. Okay, here's the vision. Do you see it? Do you want to come? Hey, do you see it? Do you want to come? Hey, do you see it? Do you want to come? And then we got started. And then I'm finding that I have to do that same kind of setting the table again. Hey, do you see this vision? Or do you want to come? Cool, here's what it looks like. At first it was just like 3 sentences, and that apparently was enough. And then as we got more information about clarity about how we're doing it, it was like, okay, cool, hey, do you see it? Do you want to come? Does this fit? This is your spot. Is God calling you into this? And the whole purpose we bring that commitment sheet is to kind of define a little bit further of how we live together so we can carry this mission out together. The last step of sharing the table is host the meal. You got to do the work. Luke 14:23 says, the master said to the servant, go to the highways and the hedges and compel people to come in that my house may be filled. When you know what your mission is and you're prepared for it, then it's time to do it. And you need to come. And I've shared that, and I want to keep sharing it. I want you to keep sharing it. Like, hey, this is the place where, like, we can actually make a difference. Like, we not only just make a difference in, like, being encouraged and lead up, like, oh, cool, Tyler brings some passionate words. But actually, like, there's a mission that's bigger than us here. And we need you to come help us to carry it out. We need somebody that's going to be like, hey, you know what we need at these tables? Flowers. Cool, I need that person. Hey, I need somebody else that thinks, hey, you know what we need at this table? We really need tablecloths. Come on, bring it. I need somebody who gets that tablecloths. Hey, you know what we really need? A drummer. Actually, we need 2 drummers. Start praying right now, we need a drummer. We need 2 drummers right now. That is going to change the spiritual condition of our church with drums.
Amen.
Hey, I'm telling you. The main idea of sharing your table is joining in the work of Jesus, where we live, where we work, where we learn, and where we play. So take a look at this last diagram and identify where you're at on that. I'll give you just a minute. There's a lot of points to consider. I don't expect you to memorize all these. That's not the hope. And to be honest with you, the process of these aren't 1 through 9. Because sometimes you're going to get to the point where you choose Jesus and you realize that you have to change more. Sometimes you're going to identify your mission and you realize you've got to grow. And you go back and you start growing and step forward. Sometimes you're going to realize that to be able to host the meal, you've got to be able to call Christians to help you carry your mission out because your mission is bigger than you are. And these steps are not necessarily designed to go 1 through 9, although I think it gives a good step, a good idea, and helps you kind of maybe understand what your next step is. Sometimes you might be able to choose Jesus and you might be ready to share your table immediately. You gotta meet Jesus. Let me tell you about my Jesus. That's great. You don't have to walk through all the steps and walk that. But there's a little bit more of a path of the way that we're kind of going. So take a look at the one that you are, and then consider it. What would that look like? How would I move towards maybe the next step in that spot? A couple other slides I want to share with you a bigger picture of where we're going as far as mission. The reason why I walk through the 3 tables of discipleship path again is because it actually kind of sees it a little bit more like, okay, what am I trying to do? Well, if I want to participate in the mission of Table of Hope and share my table, I need to know what my mission is and how I'm going to do that. That might be magic. That might be a coffee shop. That might be video games. It could be lots of different things. I've always prayed that Table of Hope would be a place where we could identify, develop, and deploy people. I just didn't expect that a piece of my heart would leave every time somebody left. And it's hard. It feels like every month we've had somebody that's kind of come along with us and then has been sent out. And I love this picture, determined to use our gifts for His glory. And that's where I really have felt like we stewarded people as they, changed seasons with us. Table of Hope's been a place that has brought health to people and people to be able to realize that they've got more a mission that calls them outside of Table of Hope. But I don't think that stops just with the last person that left. I think it's something that we're all called to. And it's a natural part of growth. And I think sometimes churches hold on to it too long, and instead of actually setting out and deploying the gifts to be used for kingdom impact, they hold them and they get sick because they cap the growth that's permitted. So you're going to see on here, the left side is the timeline of where we're kind of at. We're still building our core team. We're still trying to amass enough critical mass so that we can reach the community. And we can start making impact now. And then you'll see on the right side is a vision of where I'd love to see us be a spot where we could raise up other church planters to contextualize. Not to have many tables of hope in different places, but to have many churches, or church full-on churches, that are contextualized to the ministry. Not everybody's going to be about radical hospitality. But everybody should be about sharing the gospel. And so I want to be a place, and we're praying about the next 12 to 18 months about, who could we develop in over 18 to 36 months and invest into to develop their skills to plant a church. And it could be somebody that's in this room, or it could be the next person that joins us, or it could be an opportunity of a distant relationship with somebody that wants to do an internship. But it's something that I think that if we're going to reach Pierce County, it's got to be more than just table of hope. And that means that you might develop in your mission in a way that actually calls you to go in another way. And that's okay. You're not my disciples, you're his disciples. But I want to be a place that we identify and we develop and we deploy, which takes conversation, it takes relationship, it takes trial and error for us to be able to do those things. Next slide. Where we stand. Usually we share this in an all-in-all meeting, more of like a, hey, you're committed, we want to share where we're at financially, but I think it's important that I just make a note of this. A self-sustaining church is probably going to be 75 to 100 people on Sunday that actually, give about $10,000 a month. This is a very encouraging slide because we're about 41% of our budget to ministries. We're doing it now, but we're not there yet. The Lord provided all of our ministry need last year, and it's praiseworthy. And if nothing changes, we can continue to do ministry for the rest of this year this way. But then, I'll have to get a part-time job, or some things will have to shift if our church doesn't grow. And this isn't like, oh man, we need our church to grow, because we're in a great spot to be able to try some new things, to change up our service format, take some risks, and do some things that be like, let's reach people differently. But from planting to harvest takes a long time. Now, my hope is that you're investing in your neighbors. It's not going to take 30 years, I hope. It might. But my hope is that we would see some other quick turn growth, that maybe we are actually benefiting from work that others have done, that others that planted the seed. We came along and watered it, and we got to rejoice when it sprouted and it got to harvest. And of the 84% of people that don't know Jesus, who knows what percentage of those people might be ready to accept Jesus? And if we start to use our tables and share the gospel and build relationships, we can start to see that hope spread throughout our community. So we're not there yet. And I wanted to share that with you. But that's a big deal. We're a small church, and we're making 41% of our budget. That's a great thing. We just got to keep doing some work. Next slide. So our goals for this year, and please be joining us in prayer. I'm having a lot of conversations with these this week.
Sorry.
First point here. Yeah, point it there.
Right here.
We're raising $60,000 this year so that we can continue to do the ministry that we're doing. We have some strategic events this year. This missions emphasis is an opportunity for us to bolster and share the mission that we're trying to accomplish. We have this trailer full of a full church setup, which means we're no longer bound to being here. And we may soon meet in another location. We don't have one yet. But that's something that we can be praying for. We need a truck to haul said trailer to another location. So we're praying about that. We're developing internal generosity. That's where your giving supports the mission that we're doing. Your giving supports the work that we're doing here. Not just supporting my family, but supporting the equipping of the saints to do the work. And we're inviting new partners to join us in our mission. Now, I think it's important that I don't just talk about our church and tell everybody all these things, and you don't know that they're sharing these things. But this is a part of my mission. This is me continuing to set the table so we can continue to do ministry and continue to grow as the Lord grows our church. Let's hit that next one. So, back to the two questions we started with. How do we participate in the mission table of hope? And how do I participate in the mission beyond Sunday? I'll give you about 30 seconds to think about that. Maybe something's come to you since you thought about it, or maybe you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to have to pray about it more. I'm not going to have an answer today. That's okay too. All right, so missions, oh, sorry, 30 seconds. Felt like 30 seconds to me.
Like a 10, maybe.
Like, if you don't have a clear answer, that's okay. I want to invite you to start praying about it. If we need to have a conversation, I'd love to do that. I feel like one of the things that God has gifted me with is the ability to help people identify what their gifts are and how to deploy them. But that doesn't mean that I just like, I'm the test, or I'm the hat. What usually means is that we start a process of trial and error together, and we discuss what fits and what doesn't fit. And I'd be honored to join you in that process. Next week, we're going to share some testimonies and discuss how the Lord is leading us in missions individually and collectively. I think there's some cool things that some of you are doing on mission that you guys need to hear. And I'm excited to share those things together. In week 3, we plan to gather to bless our community together. So we'll use this time a little differently in week 3. And that week is also the week of My Gospel Space. So, you've got a few weeks before we get to that point. It's towards the end of the month. And this is where we would like to encourage you to think about how you might use your table to share the gospel. So if you want to do a game night, hey, schedule it for the end of the month. You want to do trivia night? Hey, cool, do it. You want to take a group to an event? Do it. Like, make some plans. You got enough time right now where you can kind of share, hey, I want to go do something to help build some relationship. You want to have a dinner party? Awesome. My Gospel Space is an opportunity to be able to invite others to the table. Now, you might realize that I can't do all that alone. And that's great too. You might say, you know what? I need to partner with somebody. Lindsay, would you help me host a game night? Tomorrow. You can say no, it's okay. That might be what you need to do. You might need to invite somebody else to kind of let your collective energies like carry this out. And you'd be like, cool, hey Lindsay, you organize it for me and I'll go get the people. And that would be a great fit for our gifts, right? Us working together in that way. She's a good promoter too, though. So, but finding somebody that might complement your gifts so you guys can carry out that My Gospel Space in your own setting. And you may not even talk about any scripture or Jesus or any of it. It might just be like a fun time that you have together. That's okay. It might just be the first step to start building some more relationship. In week 4, what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to debrief this as a church, and we're going to discuss it and dream about what our next mission emphasis is, when it should be, and what things that we want to include in it. So there'll be a time that we're just devoting that whole Sunday to, like, let's debrief and see how we make this better. So if you have an idea of a mission that our church should be participating in, you want to be there on that Sunday because that's an opportunity to speak into, like, oh, I've got this great idea, this is what we really need to do. I'm excited to see what the Lord does through your missions emphasis. I think it's going to be important. And I'm excited to see what the Lord does through you. I've got one more exercise, if you guys would. This is actually a little bit more interactive, so I want to invite you into this. Chris, would you slope to the... So I want to brainstorm some ideas. In week 3, we are going to gather here, and there's some things that we could do to share a mission together while we're in one space. What are some ideas? This will be the on-site serving. What are some ideas for on-site serving that we could do here together? Absolutely. In 2 weeks, we're gathering here on site. Many hands are going to be here to do something. We can do something to love on or serve on our community. You can serve here on site to bless people outside of this. What are some ideas? And I know you have ideas, actually, because I've talked to several of you. But what are some on-site serving ideas that you have that we could brainstorm? That could be an option.
We could assemble hygiene kits for the Tacoma Rescue Mission to distribute to homeless.
Fantastic. Assemble hygiene kits.
What about good neighbor kits? Like maybe something with like a coffee or a tea bag and a little package of cookies or thinking about food that everyone can pass out to their neighbors.
So a neighbor blessing kit. Okay.
How's that?
There you go.
All right, what was that?
Neighbor blessing kit. Car wash?
Oh, that's a good idea. I hear the hygiene kits for Tacoma Rescue Mission, but I'm also just wondering, there's a lot of, we've seen it in the parking lot here. We have a lot of homeless in this specific community. I think of the lady that we met right outside the Puyallup Police Department. Maybe kits that we could keep like in our cars to have available to hand out when we run across someone in need.
Like a homeless blessing bag or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I'm wondering if there's a regular time of day that they release people from the
Tuesday mornings happens pretty often.
police department, and if there's something that people typically need when they're released, like a ride somewhere, or like if we could find out like what that looks like and put together a kit for that specific community.
Sure. Explore police discharge timing and leave.
Right across from the coffee shop where you meet. I'm just thinking like local.
I used to meet Tuesday morning, and I would see like every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right, how about like notes of encouragement? Just to me. You all can make it to me. Wait, I'll receive it.
What, like? We got like a blessing box to give to people who are like sad and grieving.
Sad and grieving?
Of like a blessing box.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, like a grief box or something like that. That's a great idea, right?
What was that?
Like, I don't know exactly, something needs for families and students in the area. So like whatever they need, if it's like clothes or food or stuff like that.
The Kessler Center's Puyallup Digital Learning, which is right literally across the street from where we meet, they have a 95% free and reduced like population. They have a kitchen like that they just give, like they make food available for the students that are there, and they do have like a lot of young parents who are students there, so I could talk to the director and find out if they have any specific needs.
So Kessler Center, local needs potentially.
Is that Kessler?
Yeah, right. Dang, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you share something with me that was pretty exciting? You want to share about that?
Yeah, you're talking about the community care baskets.
Exactly.
I mean, that would be something that we could talk about, which is, that's more than just one Sunday though. That's an enduring partnership. So Katie works with housing homeless families, and oftentimes, I don't know if any of you guys, when you move into your first apartment, first home, a lot of things that those families are missing, that it just doesn't occur to them, like a shower curtain, or sheets, and things like that. Yeah, cleaning supplies, there's lots of those little things that they miss. So we're hoping to partner church or mosque or a religious group with the family, and they can help provide them with a basket for when they move into that home, basic things that they might need. And then they can come along with the kids' birthdays, maybe help them with some toys. Christmas time, hey, let's help make sure that the kids have Christmas gifts. Things like that. So that's more than just one Sunday. It typically is a lasting partnership. And it needs to come with a pretty clear line of like, hey, like, we're not expecting for you to attend our church when we give you this stuff, you know, like, this isn't transactional relationship.
Yeah, it was great. I met with Katie last week, and she works for a place called Associated Ministries, and really doing the work. And maybe she would do a better job of communicating this. But in her absence, and I'm hoping that next week I can get her. She's already been willing to share, so I think we'll have her share some more about next week. But the kind of the gap from like the intermediate or the immediate housing, like the Tacoma Rescue Mission and that kind of thing, like the work they're doing is making more temporary or long-term placements in homes and actually making a difference in homelessness. And so like what she said that they really need is churches and support organizations to come alongside to help with these social and spiritual needs that these families have, and to be able to help them long-term beat homelessness is actually more of a social element than just a needs-based element. And so I think there's a lot of merit in the opportunity that's here, and this could be just a, hey, we got a list of things we need to get because they don't have funding to get towels and utensils and other things like that. And then like, how do we build relationship and like include and that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in this one, but that's good. Any other ideas on on-site service? We got a great list going here.
Want to stuff on envelopes for me, Tyler?
Envelope stuffing, put it on the list.
I've got 4,200 envelopes sitting in my office for serving children and keep on stuff on envelopes.
There you go.
Sandy's a great resource.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I love it.
I want you to think and pray about this some more. We're going to narrow down a list and we'll actually kind of decide what we're going to do because it's only a couple weeks out. It seems like there's some of these ideas that we can actually more easily engage with. But I think some of these ideas are things that like we're going to identify a way to participate with this that won't be able to happen within our missions emphasis, but could be in the next one. Or it could be one that's not even in our next missions emphasis. Could be just like, how do I create gospel space? I'm going to go stuff some envelopes. Or I'm going to just be able to meet the needs and like be intentional in the space that's already there. All right, so now I want to turn one more question for you to think about. My Gospel Space Week. What are some options that you could consider in the next 2 or 3 weeks of some My Gospel Space you might be able to have, and we can share some inspiration with what we can do in that My Gospel Space Week. This would happen not on Sunday, but in the week. Maybe on a weeknight or Friday or Saturday night, or Saturday day or whatever your schedule looks like, but like a space for us to have some gospel space. What are some ideas?
Take your favorite waitress out for coffee.
Well, there you go.
I'm fine.
I don't think that counts.
It counts, Bill. It might not be the true gospel.
She never messaged me back anyway.
Left unread. What else?
Dinner at home and movie.
Dinner and movie night.
Bowling, man.
Grown-up bowling, not little kid bowling.
Oh no, bumpers must be included.
No bumpers have to be there.
Bumpers represent grace.
He just did juvenile bowling. Yeah.
You must have nominated.
Are the babies the ball?
I was just wondering that.
Oh, you're not bowling, baby.
That's getting dark quick. Let's.
What about checking in with Lindsay or even Braulio and see if they know of people who just need like a house to go to. Like I remember when I was in college, like finals week, we were like super excited that they put out like real cheese in the study area. It was like, oh, there's cheese, this is amazing. Because it wasn't like the fake stuff that the cafeteria always had or that you could get at the convenience store. So like I was thinking, you know, maybe there's students who we could reach out to, or some of these guys on base who maybe just need to be around kids or older people or whatever to feel more of a sense of family because they're away from other people.
That's good.
Like that?
That was great, Chris.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Neighborhood barbecue?
That's good, neighborhood barbecue, I like it. Finding somewhere close to serve that week. Maybe there's some way to volunteer locally.
What was that?
Find a local serving opportunity, like volunteer at a food bank or at, I don't know, other places that need volunteers.
Ski mission.
Or rescue mission.
CareNet used to have people come and even just like fold clothes and stock the shelves in their supply department. So that might be, there's a CareNet just on Worthy here.
Halo Night.
What?
It's a real deal. Oh my gosh. Don't judge my gospel space. Don't judge my gospel. Wow. Okay, whatever. I see what you're saying. All right, I want each of you to take about 30 seconds and think about what you're likely to do. What could be a thing that you might do for Gospel Space Week?
Bless you.
Bless you.
What's one thing you might do during this week to share your data? Just one more. One that we didn't put on here, these are all physical things, but like you could do a digital one, like a Jackbox party night or a.
Oh, I love Jackbox.
We play Jackbox all the time. and
For real?
We're constantly looking for other people to play that.
Nobody
Oh,
ever,
we
nobody
love
ever.
Let's get out.
What an opportunity. Look what just happened.
Oh my
Look what just
goodness.
happened.
It works really well.
Yeah.
Like the rest.
I refuse to play trivia.
No, it's a.
I'm not, seriously.
Oh,
Restaurant.
It's like,
Oh, Jackbox. I never even heard of Jackbox.
seriously.
Is there a Jack in the Box? There's probably gospel space there too. I don't know what it is, but there's probably something there too.
So, don't worry.
It's like you play Pictionary. It's not just that. It's a lot more than that. It's like trivia and other stuff, but it's like a digital. It's like an online digital Pictionary. It's more than that. That's the way to do it. The point of our mission emphasis isn't for me to rally you to do what I want. The point of our mission emphasis is to equip you to find a way to engage in ministry. And so when we're talking about like sharing on or doing mission on site, and we're talking about things like My Gospel Space, that's what we're trying to do as a church, is to equip you to engage with our neighbors, because our neighbors need to know Jesus. And it can be fun. It should be fun. It should be uniquely tailored to the way that we do things. You might say, you know what, Gospel Space for me is to get 3 other friends and go golfing.
Hey, so let's.
There's lots of other opportunities. It doesn't have to be just a prescribed list of what those things look like. Think and pray and imagine it. Like, where do I like to have fun? Cool, make that some gospel space. Hey, where do I work? How do I engage in the gospel space then? I guarantee you start praying and you ask the Spirit to lead you in this way, there's going to be opportunities you're like, oh, heck, we've never thought about that before, but it's always been right here. This is my thing. My gospel space might be cleaning the house. It's not my thing. I gotta be quick.
Anybody need to do some gardening? I've got a yard that.
There you go. Gospel space could be gardening at Priscilla's house. Think outside the box, but I think us engaging in mission is us doing this together and figuring out ways that we can do this individually and corporately. And it's an opportunity for you to do that. I want us to pray and then we'll close out. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity that you have us. That, Lord, not only is Team Clark everyday missionaries, but every person that's a part of Table of Hope is a part of an everyday missionary. to represent you well, to live lives that look more and more like you, and to help share the hope of the world by sharing our table. Lord, I pray that you would help us be incredibly generous with our tables, Lord, that we would be able to prepare a space to be able to have an awesome party. And we can even party even more when we invite new people into our fold. Lord, this mission is so much bigger than just us in this room. Lord, there are those that are outside the room that support us. And Lord, there's our neighbors that need to join in this mission that we're about. So I pray that you give us wisdom and discernment as we seek to follow your will and to share the hope that is you with the world. I pray these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.